or unwise. Synonyms: desire, urge, itch, impulse, lure or allurement, enticement, seduction, attraction, draw, invitation, bait, decoy, snare, trap. Origin: Latin, tempter, handle, test, try. Latin, tempteo. Old French, temptation. So there are numerous definitions for the temptation and where it comes from. Temptation in the Hebrew comes from, now there were two. I want to read this one, then I'm going to go to the original one. And it's masal. It is part of speech is feminine. Now listen, transliteration, masal. Phonetic spell is M-A-S-S-A-H. Definition: despair. Temptation. Once again, I'm going to read it as I have it, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to explain. Temptation in the writings or in the Bible, the word temptation in the Bible primarily denotes a trial in which man has a free choice of being committed or uncommitted to the Abba. Listen at this. Only secondary, the secondary definition signifies allurement or seduction to sin. So in the original, it didn't mean seduction and allurement into sin. It didn't mean that in the first definition. That was the second definition that I read to you first. Okay. All right. I can read it again. I know it's a lot. All right. I need my board. Next time I'm going to have my board. All right. Once again, temptation in the English. This is the second definition. It means, and it's a noun, the desire to do something, especially something wrong or unwise. Synonyms: desire, urge, itch. We heard that in the writings too. Having itchy ears, desiring, not this time, thank you. Desiring to have teachers, having impulse, inclination, lure, allurement, enticement, seduction, attraction, draw, pull, invitation, bait, decoy. This is just some of them. You have to get all of them, but get enough if you can. Snare, trap, origin. This is the origin. Latin, tempter, handle, test, try. Latin, tempteo. Old French, temptation. Okay? Yes. All right. Now at the end, if you need me to, I will try to get those for you. Now, temptation for the Hebrew is masal, M-A-C-C-A-H, and its part of speech is feminine. Transliteration is M-A-C-C-A-H. Phonetic spelling is M-A-S-S-A-H. Definition: despair. Now, I know I told you to go to Mishlei 4 and 23, and we're going to deal with that, but I want to deal with this first so that I can show you the foundation that I'll be coming from. Temptation in the Bible, the word temptation in the Bible primarily denotes a trial in which man has a free choice of being committed or uncommitted to the Abba. Remember, the definition I read first was the second definition. Only secondarily does it signify allurement or seduction to sin. So that's the second definition. I said, I believe last week, whenever you're looking up words, there are numerous definitions for words. that there are different translations or different definitions for your words. You could have one word that can mean 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 definitions. But the first definition is primarily going to be the original definition. The second, third, fourth, and fifth are the added definitions because they wanted to make sure that that word could be understood in other and have other meanings. In other words, and so it's important to understand. Go with the first one. The second one is almost a backup. So just in case the first one wasn't right. So when you're dealing with the English language, you have to really be careful because it almost gives you a choice to choose what definition you want. And it's not always right when you do so. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. Now, temptation again. Now, it was in C1200, act of enticing someone to sin. Also an experiment or state of being tempted. From Old French temptation, 1200C, modern French temptation, Latin temptation or temptationem, nominative temptatio. Now of action, or known, of action from past participle stem of tempter. To feel, try out, meaning that which tempts a person to sin is from C 1500. So you have to look at generations of when the word evolved and when it changed. Are y'all following?
Yes.
Tempting or temptation. Now, Yahush taught his taught ones to pray. Matit Yahu 6 and 13. The Ibram word for temptation is nisayon, Nissayon, and it can mean enticement to sin or trial and testing. Always got to look at the different in that definition can mean. So meaning it can mean that, but there's also room for it to mean something else. Okay?
Yes.
All right. The same ambiguity exists in the Greek. All right, temptation defined. Let's look at Luke. We're going to look at Luke 17 and 1. But before we go there, let's go back to Mishlei, chapter 4, verse 23. I read all of that for this reason. Once again, you have the first one is it talks about the trying of our belief, where we're given an opportunity to either be committed or uncommitted to the Abba. The second one comes and talks about allurement or enticement to walk away or to sin. We know what sin is. What is sin? It is a transgression of Abba Yahuwah's Torah. In other words, we transgress it or we break it. We don't follow it. So this is what we're looking at. But I want to build a platform on this Yom to show us that though temptation come and it has two definitions, when you look at the one in English and when you look at even the one in Hebraic. Hebraic also says it's a time of trying. And so when we look at this word, we want to find ourselves stabilizing or establishing our belief so that we understand that first thing it comes to do is to try us, to test us. Mm-hmm. Now, the second thing that can happen if we allow ourselves to be drafted in per se or follow up behind it is now to be tempted or lured into a place of sinning. Am I making sense?
Yes.
All right. So building a platform so that we can understand the different things that are going to come our way. Like I said, temptation in itself is not sinning, but the thing that happens is after you're tempted, what next? What next? Just because I'm tempted to steal doesn't mean I've sinned. What causes the sin is when I steal. Okay, so we want to build a platform. All right. As we look at Proverbs or Mishlei, chapter 4, verse 23, we're going to read all the way to verse 27. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have it.
423.
Mm-hmm.
To
27.
Guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the sources of life. Put away from you a perverse mouth, and perverse lips put far from you. Let your eyes look right on, and let your eyelids look straight before you. Ponder the path of your feet, and let all your ways be established. Turn not to the right hand, nor to the left. Remove your foot from evil. And it is so.
And it is.
All right. Now, I'm going to read it to you again from the Tanakh. I'm going to read it to you again from the Tanakh. More than all that you guard your mind, for it is the source of life. Put crooked speech away from you. Keep devious talk far from you. Let your eyes look forward, your gaze be straight ahead. Survey the course you take, and all your ways will prosper. Do not swerve to the right or to the left. Keep your feet from evil. Very important. Now, the reason I read that is because I want to show you something. Where confusion a lot of time comes in when we think of these words. When we think of heart, mind, and I think it's soul. Yeah. All right. Much of the scriptural misunderstanding over the word mind is caused by the liberal translation of the words heart, mind, and soul. These words are often interchanged with each other in scripture, thus causing confusion. Because the first place you process a thought is where?
Right.
In your mind. And then from your mind, it goes into your heart if you allow it to stay there long enough and be processed there. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So when we read this and you read it again, and I'm going to finish reading that because I want this to hit home. More than all that you guard your mind. When we read in the writings in I believe it's in Debitum, chapter 6, and he tells us, no, I'm sorry. Let's go back to Yahushua the son of Nun. Let's go there real quick. Chapter 1. All right, give me a second to get there. All right. Yahushua the son of Nun, chapter 1, and when we look at no. I'm sorry. No, Debitum chapter 6. I'm sorry. Chapter 6. Verse 8. Chapter 6, verse 8. When you have it, send it is so. All right. Chapter 6, verse 8. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. To what? To do what?
To bind to the mind.
Okay. To bind to the mind. It didn't say bind to. It didn't say to the heart. It said to the mind. Why? Because that's the processing center. Now let's look up. And these words in verse 6, these words which I command you this yom shall be in your heart. Shall be in your heart or mind? Heart and mind. Remember, these words are interchangeable. What I want to show you is the importance of, because many times when we place emphasis, not to how I want to put this, to say that it's not supposed to be in your heart, but the only way for it to get in your heart is through meditation from your what? From your mind. Your heart does no meditation. Your heart is a receiver. Your heart receives and it puts out, but it can only receive and put out what is what? Put into it. So when he's talking up here, let's go back up to 6 and 7, and let's fill this in. So what he's saying is these words which I command you this yom shall be in your heart. Also, we should look at that word as mind. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and so talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. Why? Because when you give it access to your mind, it will have access to your heart. Because this is the way it gets to your heart, through your mind. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Through your mind. That's how it gets there. How is it, you know, when you look at the things, and even though these comedians and cartoons, and they be talking about what? Mind control. Because when they get the mind of a person, the heart is already going to follow. If you notice, they never said we're going to take heart control. They said we're going to take control of the what? Mind. Because when you take control of the mind, everything else is going to follow. That is why the word for in verse 8, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, is fofo, to bind to the mind. Bind it to your mind. Are you following me?
Yes.
All right. Now let me finish reading this, and then we'll go back to Proverbs, Mishli 4 and 23.
Is it heart and mind are interchangeable?
Heart and mind are interchangeable. All right. Now, scripture thus cause confusion. An example of Mishli 23 and 7, which says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you trace the word heart back to its original Hebrew word, you'll find the word is not really heart here, but soul, a nephesh. Why didn't the translator simply translate it soul and avoid all the confusion? Is because they wanted to keep it in that manner. Are you hearing me? So if you are, so you got to understand why, because now this removes the excuse, well, that's just the way my heart is. When the emphasis should be placed on mind, because no matter what, everybody has a place of reasoning, and that place of reasoning is seated in your mind. That's your place of education. That's where you learn. You don't learn from your heart, you learn from your mind. That's where you learn. That is the place you receive information. That information is processed, and as it is being processed from your mind, then it is sent through all the rest of your body. And your heart filters it. Your heart is a filter. And if the heart is filtering whatever you put in it, that's what it's going to send out. You have to understand that. Are you following me?
Yes.
All right. Now, I wanted to read that because I wanted us to understand that word, that those words are in, you know when to read it. Look at the context clues. No matter what you have, whether it's English or Hebrew, there are always going to be context clues. Context clues always help to make up the body or show you what the body of the paragraph, the chapter, or the sentence is, because it's going to show you the clues. Now, let's go back into Mishli chapter 4, verses 23, and then we'll guard your mind, for it is the source of life. It is the source from your ruach and naturally. If a person is brain dead, they dead. They are a what? They're in a vegetable state, or they can't do anything because there is nothing to send information to. The processing center is no longer processing. So nothing functions right. That's why they have to be fed through it. That's why they have to go through the stuff they go through. And most of the time, if a person is brain dead, they're ready to pull the plug because they say they're dead. There's nothing can be done. So you have to understand the mind is a very powerful thing. Very powerful. Y'all remember, y'all probably too young to remember the commercials used to come on. You know, the mind is a terrible thing to waste, and they crack this egg and put it in a skillet. And when my oldest son was younger, he asked, he said, what do they mean by that? Cracking the egg, putting it in the skillet, frying it. You know, what does it have to do with the mind? We have to understand the concept of that is, if you, which really, that still didn't make sense, to crack an egg and put it in the skillet and fry it, because you eat eggs that manner, right? So that didn't really make sense. But the concept of it is, if you crack the egg and it spills out and you can't use it, then that's wasting it. I could have seen if they would have put it on the ground or what have you on a car that's hot, but to put it in a skillet was really, really just foolishness. But the mind is a terrible thing to waste. Why is it a terrible thing to waste? Because that is the place of reasoning, and that is the place you process your information. That is why they say people that are handicapped or slow can't do anything on their own, and they need somebody to do what? To be their spokesman, to basically help them along the way to understand certain things. So these are things that are important. All right, now say verse 24. But crooked speech away, crooked speech away from you. Keep devious talk far from you. Why is it the next verses that follow are made up in this manner? Because you have to understand, whatever comes up here, we've already thought that thing through. We've already made up our mind. You know how we talk to ourselves, because I do it all the time and say, this time they better not come to me this way because I'm not going to have it. That's your mind talking. That's not your heart. Heart, you fulfill the action that your mind has just told you. I'm not going through that anymore. Now your heart says, I'm with you. I'm with you. Whatever actions you bring forth, I'm going to do it. I'm going to support you in these actions. Now, the thing, once again, is he's telling us how to put away this by guarding our minds. You put away this crooked speech. You put away devious talk by guarding your mind. Let your eyes look forward. Your gaze be straight ahead. Survey the course you take. Surveyors, you know what surveyors do? Surveyors go and they have this camera and they set it up on a tripod and they survey the land. They take pictures and they look at the land and they have all kind of numbers and stuff on there to see how slopes, whether it's flat, what's going on with the land. And this is what they're able to do to go back and tell those, hey, the land is flat, it's curved, it has holes, what have you. These are the things to do. Now, listen what is being told us. Survey the course you take. Will prosper, because this is a journey. This is a course. This is why when I do my praise, my personal praise, and my song in it, I talk about this is, and he's able to keep us on our journey. Are you following me?
Yes.
He's able to keep us on this journey. Why? Because he's already given us the instruments and the tools we need to survey our course of action. So in our walk and wherever we're going, is not suitable for your course, that means you're off course. You don't take land, that which you may land, and place it on the sea. You don't take that which you would use for the sea and use it for the land, because you have two different types of instruments. Land is straight and doesn't move. Water moves. So it's important to understand. Again, he says, do not swear to the right or to the left. Keep your feet from evil. How do we keep our feet from evil? And how do we keep from getting ourselves caught up in these situations? Guarding our minds. We're in a time now that so much stuff is acceptable that if you don't guard your mind, you will accept these things because it sounds reasonable. One of the meanings of temptations, or the synonym of temptation in the English, and I'm kind of using both, is to allure, to entice. Remember, this is the second one. Attraction, pull, bait, decoy. So if you are not walking in truth, you're going to find yourself being on the path where all these things are situated. Are you following me? Because it's not an evil thing to walk in truth. There's no way you can convince me that walking on the path of truth that I'm going to run up and meet evil. I'm not, because that's not on the path of truth. But if I stray from the path of truth and I find myself in other places, then I'm subject to find anything. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. Excuse me. Now, that is the first thing. Now, I want us to look at Luke 17:1, which is going to give us the definition or define temptation. You haven't said it is so.
It is so.
All right, 17:1. All right. Luke 17:1. Oh, come on, he said. I'll let you read the next one. Come on. Read loud and clear for me, please.
Luke 17:1, coming from the NIV. Yahushua said to his disciples, things that cause people to sin are bound to come, but woe to that person through whom they come.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 2.
Read one again.
Yahushua said to his disciples, things that cause people to sin are bound to come, but woe to that person through whom they come. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, let me read it from here. 1461. I'm gonna think about 17 and 1. Give me a second to get there. Think about that, though. All right, that's one rendering. We're going to read it from another one. Now look, verse 17, and this is from the Nitzrim. And he said to the pupils, it is inevitable that stumbling blocks should come, but woe to him through whom they come. So that's a different rendering, okay? I'm going to read it from another one. And we're going to read it back through there because we want to substantiate and we want to listen to how this thing is being set up to ensure that what we are hearing that Yahushua is not saying safe. Okay? All right, let's get there. Once again, we're looking at temptation. And we're looking at it, understanding how to keep ourselves from stumbling. Because temptation is going to come. All right, I'm almost there. Give me 2 seconds. All right, 17 and 1 from the Abrahamic covenant. Now I read it from the Nitzrim for you. 17 and 1 says, then he said to the disciples, it is impossible, but that stumbling blocks will come. But woe to him through whom they come. Through whom they come. Remember context clues. All right, read that again from your rendering.
Yahushua said to his disciples, things that cause people to sin are bound to come. But woe to that person through whom they come. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, once again, I'm going to read it again from the Nitzrim and from the Abrahamic covenant. Why? Because I want to show us something. Then said he to the disciples, it is impossible, but that stumbling blocks will come. Woe to him through whom they come. Through whom they come. That means there is a person or persons through whom these stumbling blocks will be presented in our lives. All right, now I'm going to read it from the scene. He said to the pupils, it is inevitable that stumbling blocks should come, but woe to him through whom they come. He's showing us that stumbling blocks are going to come in our lives, but there is a root or there is a place from where these things come. They just don't appear out of the air, okay? Now, let's look at this footnote in here where it says will come. Offenses or stumbling blocks are those that teach you that you cannot keep Torah, the Torah commandments. Yashiyah 8 and 14. Let's look at that. And Yashiyah 57 and 14. A stumbling block will always remove you from the way of the Torah. Remember, once again, to keep that from happening to us, once again, we look at temptation. We go back to Mishlei 4 and 23. 4 and 23, where he says, guard what? Your mind. The moment you let your guard down and you open your mind up to everything that's possible, that's where problems are going to happen. So he's already showing us the first thing that we need to do to keep ourselves from what? Stumbling. Now, temptations are going to come. It is inevitable. These things are going to happen. But the thing that helps us is that we understand we don't have to fall for it. All right. When you have it, say it is so. All right. Read it for me, please.
Isaiah chapter 57, verse 1. Against whom do you support yourselves? Against whom you make a wide mouth and draw out the tongue? Are you not children of transgression, a seed of falsehood? And it is so.
And it is so. All right, now we're going to read that again. Isaiah or Yashiyah 57 and 14. And it reads, and one shall say, heap it up, prepare the way. Take the stumbling block out of the way of my people. That's what 57 and 14 says. Okay. Yes. Now, and one shall say, heap it up, prepare the way. Take the stumbling block out the way of my people. Verse 15, for thus declares the high and exalted one who dwells forever, whose name is set apart. Now, once again, take what away? The stumbling block. What is the stumbling block? What is it that we face? False teaching. Are you hearing me? Offenses, yes. Stumbling blocks. These are the things that come in our way. And this is why it is important that being many that are young in this walk, that you don't just accept what is tossed out there before you. First of all, you need to pray and you need to fast, and then you need to have somebody credible in your life that you can say, hey, this is what I've read, or this is what I've heard. Can you give me some input on it? I would also suggest first and foremost that you would sit under somebody and learn. You know, that's not a bad thing. People get these things so mixed up and twisted, believing that the first thing you do once you come into this walk is now you start a canvas of now I got to go win everybody. But when you bring everybody in, what are you going to tell them besides, okay, you could be, you know, part of the 12 tribes. Mm-hmm. Now, there is more to this life. You got to be able to walk people through and show people what they need to do to build, watch this, a healthy relationship, not just with the Abba, but with one another. Right. So if I'm on a quest to build a relationship with the Abba, but I can't deal with my fellow man, there's a problem. And when I say fellow man, I'm talking about those of the household or the Bayit of Yasharal. That is important to understand. And so as we continue to look, once again, excuse me, it is important that we understand what these stumbling blocks are, or also temptation, what temptation is. It's amazing that when we're out here and you hear new things and, you know, you'd be like, wow, you know, that sounds new. But we need to focus on the original, not what is new, but that what is from the beginning, what he gave to us. Now, I believe with all my heart that the foundation should always be, first and foremost, building your relationship first and foremost with the Abba through Yahushua Mashiach, receiving the Ruach HaKodesh, and learning the basics or the principles of this lifestyle. Learning those things. Why should we learn these things? Because this is what separates us from every other nation. Every other nation. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right, let's look at Yashia 8 and 14. Who has that for me?
And it is so.
All right, come on, read that for me.
Yashiyahu 8 and 14 reads, and he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling and for a rock of offense to both of the houses of Yasharal, for a gin and for a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And it is so.
And it is so. And he shall be for a set apart place, but a stone of stumbling and a rock that makes for falling to both the houses of Yasharal, as a trap and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Now listen at this. And many among them shall stumble and fall and be broken and snared and taken. Bind up the witnesses, seal the Torah among my Talmudim. And I shall wait on Yahuwah, who hides his face from the house of Yaakov. And I shall look for him. Look, I am the children whom Yahuwah has given me, for signs and wonders in Yasharal, from Yahuwah Shabbat, who dwells in Mount Zion. And when they say to you, seek those who are mediums and wizards who whisper and mutter, should not a people seek their power? Should they seek the dead on behalf of the living? He's telling me, he said, no. Now you have to understand, when the Mashiach came, that was Yahuwah's way also of turning his face back unto us, because that he is the open door for us to return back to him. But he is a stumbling block to many, because many cannot accept him. So I just want to kind of not go on this. Now, talking about this in 17 and 1 of Luca, is talking about the false instructions that's given unto us many times that causes people to stumble, because now they're saying, okay, but this says one thing, but you are telling me this. So if this is what has been substantiated for years, then now that you're walking in truth and now this is presented, now it causes you to stumble, because now you're in a place that you are being questioned or you are being lured, listen at this, to follow either the decoy or follow your own heart. Are you following me?
Yes.
Which causes many of problems. This is why so many times people stumble, because really, in looking at this, the more people look, especially at the lifestyle of Yahushua, many people are having problems with accepting him as the Mashiach because of the other information that is presented. Now you have to understand, believe in studying when it is merited, both sides. But there comes a time where you don't have to study both sides. If I know poison is poisonous, then I'm not going to study up on taking poison to see how I can take it just little bit by little bit to keep it from killing you. It's a killer.
Right.
And whether it kills you instantly or slowly, it is still poison and not to be ingested, not to be consumed. So I'm not going to study up on that. So once again, it is important that we understand and recognize when the enemy is trying to lure us from that place of safety. How do we do that? Once again, guard your mind from the temptation and the wooing of the enemy. The enemy don't want you to learn truth. He wants you to learn everything but truth.
Right.
Because when you are satisfied with truth, you're not going to go outside of that. And it is something that really just sparks in your ruach that says you don't need that. That's going to take you away from truth. Don't follow up behind that. So it's important that we understand these things. Once again, let's go back to 17:1. Now listen at this, and I want to read this. It is impossible, but that stumbling blocks will come. But woe to him through whom they come, or her. Because you got a lot of time, it's not just the men, it's also women that teach erroneous things. Those who tell others that the Torah is only for the Ibram or the Jewish, let me put it in that, Jewish people, are committing a heinous sin that Yahuwah abhors, and they will have to answer for this with severity. Now, let me explain why I said that. We are not Jews. We are Ibram. And if you look up Jew, you will understand Jewish means to be like. They stole our identity and they stole what belongs to us. So in books, and you look up the definition, their faces, if they are the Hasidic Torah, the Hasidic, or if they follow the Mashiach, which is or the Messiah, as they like to say. And so when it's all said and done, this is who people, when you talk to them about walking in truth and you say, no, we are the Hebrews or we are the Ibram, the first thing they say, oh, y'all are Jews. No. We are not Jews. So when it is put in that manner that this is only for the Jews, meaning it strikes us out or it removes us from the picture. Because we're not Jew. When you pull that up, you're not going to see that. Now they got this, the black Jews, which is a double negative. Black and Jew. We're neither one of them. Are you following me? So it is important that we understand this is why this is being said here. The Abba abhors this because it is not for the Jews. It is for us, the Ibram. Are you following me?
Yes.
All right. Now listen what he says. Those who tell others that Torah is only for the Jewish people are committing a heinous sin that Yahuwah abhors, and they will have to answer. So it is important that we understand once again that this teaching or this heinous information comes from a source. And that source is a people that don't want you or me to follow or maintain or walk in it. And this is why comes the trying or the pulling on us as a people. Now, once again, let's look at this. This is a picture of Roman Catholics or Roman Catholicism and Christianity, which has brought many stumbling blocks and tells their followers to break Torah. You don't have to keep the Sabbath. You don't have to keep the feast. All those things were done away with. Or they'll tell you, well, it's really of African ancestry. So really, you don't have to do it in that way. They come up with so many other things that by the time, if you listen to everything that is being propagated and put out there, if you're not, many will be confused, which is happening now. So once again, it's important that we understand the definition of temptation, being lured away from the truth. It is always not which many times we see and believe, it is not just steeped in sexual sin. It's not. It is also in knowledge. When people desire to stray from truth, or you want more, I want more and more and more. And so in your wanting more, you allow yourself to see something that may become tantalizing or may even become desirable. Why? Because you're constantly looking at it saying, well, maybe if I just check it out, maybe it won't be that bad. And in checking it out, now you've got a hook in your mouth because now you've been misled or you've been led astray. That's a stumbling block. And for everyone that constantly promotes error, the Yahweh is going to deal with them. He's going to deal with them in his timing. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. Now, once again, temptation defined. I'm going to read it again, 17:1. Then said he to the disciples, it is impossible, but that stumbling blocks will come. But woe to him through whom they come. So he's warning them. These things are going to come. Temptation defines stumbling blocks. But how do I get in that position? Once again, things are going to be presented to us. But you don't have to take it because it's presented to you. I have to accept everything that is put on my plate. Are you hearing me? Especially if it's going to go against the grain and go against the core of what he's already showed me. That's important to understand. All right, now, understanding temptation and understanding you have a personal responsibility. Let's go to Deuteronomy 16:11. We both have, or all of us have, a personal responsibility. What personal responsibility do I have? To ensure that I'm following in the truth and I'm not following up behind everything, especially when I have been given example time and time again. And not only that, but I've been shown what I need to do and how I need to do it to fortify myself and keep myself from walking in these errors or finding myself stumbling at these things. And it is so. All right, once again, that's the Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 11.
And it is so.
All right, come on, let's read that for me.
And it reads, Deuteronomy 16, chapter 16, verse 11.
Mm-hmm.
You shall rejoice before you with your power, with your son and daughter, your male and female servant, the Levite in your communities, and the stranger, the fatherless, and the remiss, at the place where your power will choose to establish his name.
And so, that's 16 and 11, right?
Yes.
Okay. Personal responsibility. Once again, 16 and 11. Let's look at that again. And you shall rejoice before your power, you and your son and your daughter and little house. Everybody that's a part of your life. Manservant and your maidservant, and the Levite that is within your gates, and the foreigner, and the fatherless, and the widow that are among you, in the place which your power has chosen to place his name there. It is important that we understand, once again, our personal responsibility. Our personal responsibility to what? To stay away from being lured or being enticed to walk away from what is truth. These things are going to happen. It's going to present itself. But if it presents itself, let it present itself on the path of truth and not on the path where you are straddling the fence. Because I still say, on the path of uprightness, you will not find evil. You're not going to find it there. The reason we come into certain situations is because we deviate from that. Now, Yahushua did say we would find ourselves. It is inevitable. You're going to be tempted. But be tempted in your place of security and not outside of that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That we have to, because if we don't, we'll find ourselves being all over the place. And now being all over the place is not a great thing. And this is why so many times people are defeated or they are destroyed before they even really get into this walk and get some experience and get some age on them, because they get information and then they say, well, that information was, erroneously delivered, or that person wrote this information, or that person gave this information, so we can't use that information. And so then you end up straying the course because you're trying to find information that right now you may not be able to get in your hands. Do y'all follow me?
Yes.
Never ever will I ever endorse following up behind erroneous information or following that what is false. But I will say this: you need to maintain your course of action where you are. If he's revealing to you his relationship with you, then maintain that right there. Many times people are trying to get in the lane they're not ready for. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And this is where the enemy will surely get you. If you are trying to do something, once again, that you are not qualified to do. Once again, remember the act of temptation. And the second definition is to entice, to cause a person to walk away and to fall away and sin. But the first one is talking about trying, the trying of your belief, trials. Now, once again, that's important to understand, because if the trying of my belief is a part of that, then there are things that is going to be presented to me, but I've got to be strong enough and concrete enough and stable enough in my walk with him to understand, okay, this is a trial. And I'm not going to let a temporary situation cause me to make a permanent choice. I'm not going to do that. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. Let's look at Tehillim 46 and 1. 46 and 1. All right. Read that one.
Tehillim 46 and 1. It reads, Yahuwah is our refuge and strength, a help in distress soon found.
I did it, so read again.
Yahuwah is our refuge and strength, a help in distress soon found.
Refuge in the time of temptation. But one thing about it is many times we find ourselves, or many times we are too proud and we're too arrogant to admit when we are in need of help. So we go on this quest on our own without stopping for a moment and asking, is this right or is it wrong? There are some things, if you know anything about politics, when they're in the room and they have different laws that they're looking at renewing, changing, making new, if they can't come to an agreement, they will table it.
Right.
They will put it aside. Many times we just run just because we feel like we have the strength and we have the ability to do so, not even questioning where our running is going to take us when we get to the end. We don't question that. So by the time we finish, many times we've run off the path. We've deviated from the path, and don't get somebody in your ear that don't have any structure or any kind of discipline, and you're going to really be off the path. There was this old horror movie that we watched years ago, and it was called Werewolf in London. And it was about some Englishmen that went over into London, and they had went to what was the pub called? It's called what's it called? Not a pub. It's called something else. But they went there to get some beer. The two young men, and when they went to the pub to get the beer, they went in, and the people looking at them all crazy because they knew, hey, they're not from around here. So to make a long story short, they ended up leaving, and they told them, they gave them specific instructions. They said, stay on the path where the moon is shining. They said, do not deviate and get off the path, because if you get off the path, destruction awaits you. So as they were on the path, they got to talking. And his friend was, cutting up and talking and playing and cutting the food. And the whole time they're talking, they never watched their footing. So by the time they look up, they're off the path. This is why it is important that if you're going to walk with somebody, you better make sure the person you're going to walk with that they are disciplined and they are solid in their walk. And they have evidence and witnesses to back it up. Credible witnesses and evidence to back it up. Because if not, what you're going to do is get off the path. This is how so many of our people have deviated from the path, because they allow somebody because it's already in them anyway, to walk away. Now, mind you, they're walking and they just talking and they forgot the instructions that were given to them. They forgot. Yahuwah gave us instructions the moment we came into this truth. Yes, he did.
Right.
But every person that has ever come into truth and truly been awakened by the Abba, he gives you instructions.
Right.
Whether those instructions are specifically for you or for you to give to somebody else. I know the instructions he gave me. And not only did he give me instructions, but he gave me a plan to go with those. 3 R's: recovery, restoration, revival. Recovering of who we are. Then from recovery, restoration, and then true revival. It is important that we understand we are in a place of recovery. Until everything that was lost and taken away is recovered, you cannot move to the next phase.
Right.
It's just like giving birth. Until the uterus is thinned out, that baby's not coming. We've not dilated yet in order to move to the second phase. We're still being recovered. When recovery is finally at its peak, then restoration for everything that was lost will be given unto us. We still have people that are out there that we need to recover. There are people out there that still need to be recovered. There are people that are recovering not just from Christianity, but from erroneous doctrine. Are you following me?
Yes.
Even erroneous Hebraic doctrine.
Right.
So we still in a system or a cycle or a time, locking down our identity and our way of life. And if we move beyond that, we have that what he's given unto us.
That's right.
So it's important. And then you leave your place of safety. So it's important that we understand he is a refuge for us in the time of temptation. Power is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. One of the key things in getting help is admitting I'm in trouble, which people don't like to admit. They don't admit I'm in trouble. I need help. I need someone to help me, to lead and guide me along the way. It's important we understand that. Why? Because when you are haughty, arrogant, and boastful and proud, that's right where the enemy likes you. You're right for the picking. Because then he can feed you anything he wants, because he knows that because of your arrogance, you're not going to question what has been given to you. You're going to follow it. You're going to follow it, and you're going to follow it with all the strength you have. But when you're in that place where you know I'm in trouble, I'm in trouble right now because I'm at a place in my life that I'm emotional, I'm vulnerable. And when you are emotional and vulnerable, that's when the enemy is waiting right there to pounce on you. Because what he wants, giving you this to take your mind off of that. It's a great thing, but you don't do the acid test. Okay, if I do this, where's it going to take me? And Abba Yahuwah, if this is you, you're not the author of confusion.
That's right.
You're not the author of confusion. Nothing that the Abba does is going to, watch this, especially when we're all walking the truth, going to bring us into confusion. It's important we understand that. But the enemy waits so he can start confusion, because that's what he does. He's the author of confusion. That's what he desires to do. He likes that. Why? Because while we're so busy in that state of confusion and bickering and fussing, guess what? He's doing what he does best. That's steal, kill, and destroy. So it is important that you and I understand where we stand. Take heed how you stand, lest ye fall. You got to know when you are in trouble, because he's our strength and he's our help in the time of trouble. You know, you got to understand trouble is not always what people throughout history, and even what society would say. People think, well, I'm in trouble because I lost my job. Financially, I'm in trouble. But what about being in trouble because of a lack of knowledge, or you're inundated with knowledge? Now you're in trouble, because now you got all this stuff before you and you're trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I cipher? How do I sift through all this? Sometimes people won't admit that. Some people won't admit, well, I was presented with all this stuff. So by me being presented with all this stuff, what is not needed? Know what is needed and what is not.
That's right.
That's key. It's very important. That's why we are so we're in different places doing different things, because everybody's trying to be ahead and nobody's trying to humble themselves and be quiet and listen to the one that he's called to be in charge. Now I know that's a hard and a strong word for many people, because many people don't like to hear that. Who in charge? Ain't nobody in charge of me. Yahushua is in charge of my life. When Yahushua came, he had disciples.
That's right.
Disciples. He had disciplined followers. Now let me show you something. Each one of them had their own business, meaning they understood how to humble themselves and follow somebody else, a way they knew not, and they followed it. They didn't rise up and say, how you gonna make us be fishers of men and you don't even have a boat, you don't even have a net to begin with, you don't even look like a fisherman. So how you gonna teach us to be fishermen of men when you don't even look like a fisherman? But they understood the analogy because they have been reading. They understood this. We have to be in that position. Are you following me?
Yes.
And humble ourselves and not try to be something once again that we're not. All right, let's look at Mishlei 2:10. Proverbs chapter 2. I pray this is helping somebody.
God. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, chapter 2, we got chapter 2, and we have verse 10, verse 10 to 12, and then we're going to jump to 16. We're going to look at how to resist, the facility for resisting temptation. All right, chapter 2, who has it? All right, come on, read 10 through 12, and then verse 16. You have it first? Okay. I was reading next time.
Mishlei chapter 2, verses 10 through 12.
And then jump to 16.
Verse 16, coming from the NIV. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will protect you, and understanding will guard you. Wisdom will save you from the ways of wicked men, from men whose words are perverse, who leave straight paths to walk in dark ways. Verse 16, it will save you also from the adulteress, from the wayward wife with her seductive words. And it is so.
Okay. Read verse 17 because it goes with it too.
Verse 17, who has left the partner of her youth and ignored the covenant she made before Yahuwah.
All right. Now we're gonna deal with this. We're gonna deal with this up here. Because so many times, the first thing, if it's say a woman, the first thing people do is forget what is being said. All right, chapter 2, verse 10 through 12, and it reads, when wisdom enters your heart, interchangeable with what? Mind. And knowledge is pleasant to your soul. Discretion shall what? Preserve you. Preserve you. Listen, that's what it says. Understanding shall what? Keep you. Now look at the formula that's here. This is a formula. And because it's a formula, formulas that are made, excuse me, by the hand or at the hands of the Abba from one that has been proven, that has been tested and tried, you can rely on it. You can rely on it. Many things have not been proven, but people take it and run with it. Are you following me?
Yes.
You got a sparkle in your ear. Look like you got an earring in your ear. When wisdom enters your heart, mind. You know what wisdom is? The ability to operate in knowledge or to utilize knowledge. And knowledge is, now watch, and knowledge is pleasant to your soul. The reason it is pleasant to your soul is because you understand knowledge. Because wisdom is the ability to show you knowledge or how to operate in the information that you have. Discretion shall preserve you. Understanding shall keep you. You know, discretion, we always say, you know, that you have to be discreet. You have to use wisdom in that. It shall preserve you. Understanding shall keep you. There are things, once again, that we accept just because sometimes it's in a book or just because of who it comes from. But it is important that whatever information you get, you acid test it. You take it through the acid test. Prove it through the writings. Follow it up with scripture. Are you following me?
Yes.
That is important, because stuff that just because it's in a book and just because it says Hebrew on it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. And many of our people have fallen prey to this, and that's why we are still so divided. Because you say because a Hebrew person told you this is right, but then a person that the Abba has raised up and said as a Mora has said this is right, you turn around and say, but that person says it's right. Once again, humility, discretion shall preserve you. Understanding shall keep you. Many people are not being kept because they take lead when it is not for them to do so. It's not for them to do so. So now you have people out here because of something, once again, they've been enticed to listen or to take a bite of information that was not given to them by a person that was proven and placed in their life to be that person. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Now, I know many people get out here and think, well, the Abba showed me and he brought me into this truth and he gave me this and he gave me that. And I'm not knocking that. But I also know that there are some things that somewhere and listen and learn. That's important to understand. Now, listen what he says. Understanding shall keep you to deliver you from the way of the evil man, from that man that speaks perversities. Now, you have to understand, somebody would say, what is perversities? When people speak against the instructions of the Abba, against the Abba, are you following me?
Yes.
Against what he has already set in place and set in motion from the very beginning, before you or me or our ancestors were ever put in or put in place. Now you have people that are speaking ill of certain things, location, geographical location. They speak ill of everything and all of these things. But listen what it says. Once again, verse 10, when wisdom enters into your heart, mind, and knowledge is pleasant to your soul. The reason why, once again, knowledge is pleasant to your soul is because wisdom gives you the ability to operate in the information that has been given to you. Discretion shall preserve you. Understanding shall keep you. It keeps us because we are discreet in what we listen to, and we are using the wisdom or the ruach of discernment to say, no, I'm new. You keep that. You know how many times people want to present to you, I can show you in the writings that the Mashiach is not real. They can present the writings, but the interpretation of those writings are off. So I don't need you presenting to me the writings, because the writings within themselves are right, but your interpretation is marred. This is why discretion is important, because you can be discreet and say, no, I don't want to hear that. Just like with anything else. Are you following me?
Yes.
Now, once again, listen what he says, to deliver you from the way of evil man. This helps us to be delivered from the way of the perversities. To be perverse is not always speaking under somebody's clothes. To be perverted is speaking against Torah and saying we don't have to keep his instructions. The 10 Commandments are done away with. You don't have to keep the feast. You don't have to keep any of that. You don't have to wear seeds. You know, you don't have to do any of those things. All you have to do is just love everybody. It's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Now there is a doctrine that says all of these are fulfilled or wrapped up, and you just are hobbing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand something. That's erroneous.
Mm-hmm.
Because first and foremost, he didn't come to do away with it. Once again, when you look at Matthew, Yahoo, I think it's 5 and 17 and 18, he tells us, he said, I didn't come to do away with the law, neither the prophets, but to fulfill it. So you have to understand, while he was saying one thing, the majority was following that which had already been established. So now he had a fight on his hands, because he had to show them, yo, this is the right way in which I'm bringing to you now. Just because you've been in something for a long time, or you followed in this and you feel like, oh, this is right, doesn't make it right. Mm-hmm. That is important. Now listen what he says in verse 13. No, we skip. I'm sorry. Go to verse 16. We read 10 to 12. Now we go to 16. I'm sorry. Let's go to 16. But no, we have to finish verse 12. Let me back up. We have to read 13, 14. We have to read actually all the way to 17, because all of that finishes that. Those semicolon, a dot and a colon, that's a semicolon, meaning that everything after that is still very important. So I'm going to read verse 13. Who leads the paths of uprightness to walk the ways of darkness. To walk the ways of darkness. You know the path of uprightness, but because you've been lured and you've been enticed to leave that way because of information that has been presented. Who rejoice to do evil and delight in the perversities of the wicked. Now, somebody would say, when it comes down to it, somebody would ask the question, rejoice to do evil. What does evil mean? Do you not know when people, once again, talk against the Torah, that is evil? That's evil. That is evil. So you don't want to walk after somebody in that, and they delight in the perversities of the wicked. That's perverted to say that the instructions of the Abba have been done away with. Now listen to what this. Whose ways are crooked and they are perverted in their ways. To deliver you from the strange woman, even from the foreigner, which flatters with her words, which forsake the God of her youth and forget the covenant of her power. Now it changes off. It drops. When you get to verse 16, it says to deliver you from the strange woman, even from the foreigner, which flatters with her words. Now, you know, if you're dealing with somebody and they're talking off and they are not presenting truth and they are basically falsifying and giving you information that's not right, then you know you're not supposed to follow them, whether they're male or female. That's important to understand. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Very important to understand, because when it is all said and done, a person that speaks ill against the instructions of the Abba, they're evil. The Abba calls them evil. And I don't care who they are. If you sit there and you vacillate and you sit and you say, well, I'm walking in truth, but I still don't understand everything, well, then you need to keep your mouth closed until you understand everything about his instructions. Because to tell people, oh, we don't have to do that because we're in this land of America, which you got so many definitions and so much that's being propagated. Oh, we don't have to keep it. We don't have to keep this. We don't have to keep that. If you don't know what you're talking about, you need to be quiet.
Right.
Because until the Abba has given you the full understanding of the scriptures, then there are some things you need to be quiet about. Because your interpretation of it could really cause somebody, once again, to stumble or be led astray. Now, where it says here, to deliver you from the strange woman, even from the foreigner, which flatters with her words. Flattery words. Oh, you don't have to keep that. You don't have to do that. That's done away with. Now listen what he says in verse 17, which forsake the God of her youth and forget the covenant of her power. It already tells you this is the person that's going to do what verse 16 says. Why? Because this person has forsaken the guide of her youth and forgets the covenant of her power. So if she's not walking in the covenant, then surely she's not going to tell you to walk in the covenant. Surely she's not going to tell you to walk in truth. So it's already outlined this type of person. Every woman is not that type of woman. Every woman is not following after that way. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
That is important. Very important for us to understand. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 17 and 19. We're made strong by Yahuwah's power. Once again, we're not following up behind these things. Temptation is going to come. As I said before, I gave you two definitions. The first definition, and I gave you the Hebrew definition. I'm going to give you the definition again. In the English, while you're turning chapter 1, verse 17 through 19, made strong by Yahuwah's power. All right. Look at temptation. In the English, this is the second definition. The desire to do something, especially something wrong or unwise. Synonyms: desire, urge, itch, impulse, inclination, lure, allurement, enticement, seduction, attraction, draw, pull, invitation, bait, decoy, snare, trap. Its origin is Latin, tempter, handle, test, try. So in the beginning, in the Latin definition, it means to handle, test, or try. In the Latin also, it means temptio or temptate Old French, temptation. So you see, this is the English rendering. Now, when we go to the Hebraic rendering of it, it is nisayon. And it can mean enticement to sin or trial and testing. So you got both of them in this definition. Tempting and trial. Now, your trial is either going to do either keep you on the path of uprightness, or it's going to cause you to be tempted to stray from what he's already put you in, or place your feet where he's designated your feet to be. So once again, whether it's English or whether it is the Hebraic, it still falls along the same definition: enticement or testing or trial. So the thing for us to do is to do what? Is to guard our mind so that we won't follow according to Mishlei 4:23. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
For out of it flows the issues of life, or the instructions of life. The mind is a powerful place. And you have a lot of people, once again, you have people that are overthinkers. You have people that will rationalize everything. You have people that will get offensive, defended, or whatever you want to say when it comes to certain things, or defensive. I'm put it in that manner. I don't want to say whatever. But offensive or defensive when it comes to certain things. Because when it's all said and done, you have to understand the enemy already knows everything about you and me that he needs to know. The thing to accept is that he will use people. We already know that stumbling blocks come, and they come from what? People's either interpretation of the writings or their erroneous teaching of the. So what this comes from, then it is easier to prepare ourselves. So when we hear something that is off the wall, and understand when I say off the wall, that when you go read in the writings, it says something different than what they are saying. Are you following me? It's important for us to understand that. All right, let us turn our attention to Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 17 through 19. Made strong by Yahuwah's power. We are made strong by his power. So by being made strong by his power, we have a defense against these things, but we got to walk in it. Chapter 1, verses 17 through 19. All right.
Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 17 to 19. Now gird up loins and arise, and speak to them all that I command you. Do not break down before their faces, lest I break you before them. For look, I have made you this Yom a walled city, and an iron column and bronze walls against all the land, against the sovereigns of Yehuda, against her heads, against her Kohen, and against the people of the land. And they shall fight against you, but not prevail against you. For I am with you, declares Yahuwah, to deliver.
And it is so. Now let's look at that again. Chapter 1, verse 17 through 19. Made strong by Yahuwah's power. He makes us strong. He has fortified us, and he will continue to fortify us. Listen what he says. You, therefore, gird up your loins. The place of your what? Strength. Loins is the place of your strength. That's your place of strength. And arise and speak to them all that I command you. Be not dismayed at their faces, lest I confound you before them. Now remember, he's talking to Jeremiah because Jeremiah has to deliver a word. But we can still use his example, his strength, and his experience in a situation like this to draw strength and know that the Abba will not fail us in any given time of our lives as long as we're doing what he's told us to do.
Right.
He says, for behold, I have made you this day a walled city and an iron pillar and brazen walls against the whole land, against the kings of Yehuda, against the princes thereof, against the Kohanim thereof, and against the people of the land. And they shall fight against you, but they shall not prevail against you. I am with you, says Yahuwah, to deliver you. Once again, we can draw strength from verse 19. Why do they fight against us as a people? Because we stand and because we promote truth. People will fight against you just because of the way you look, especially if you are carrying yourself as an Ibra. You don't have to do anything out of the ordinary. Just do what he's told you to do. Wear your seats and carry yourself as as his treasured possession. And people will hate you. People look at you and snicker, and then there'll be those that are smiling. And then it'll be those that recognize who you are. May walk by, may say something, may not. But you got to understand, they were fighting against them because of who they were. But they shall not prevail against you, for I am with you, says Yahuwah, to deliver you. He is with us to deliver us. We got to remember that no matter how things get, and once again, the formula for standing in the face of temptation, in the face of your trying, in the face of your trials, in the face of being of the enemy trying to seduce you, lure you out, or bait you out. Either situation we're in, he is our strong deliverer. But we've got to rely on him and know without a shadow of a doubt that he's going to deliver us. See, one thing about the enemy, he knows our limitations. He knows where you're weak. But you got to know where you're weak so you can maintain and build that place up so it's no longer weak, it becomes strong. How do we do that? By building up our belief in the writings of the Abba.
That's right.
You do anything other than that, how you going to stand? You can't. This is not a race of who can get the most knowledge. It is a race of endurance. Enduring what? Enduring the trials that come against our belief. So it is important that we build ourselves up in our belief. Isn't it in Yud? He says, praying in the Ruach, building up your most precious belief. So you have to build your belief through prayer and through a meditation of the writings. Because if we don't do these things, how will we be able to stand? You can't. And you have to guard the most precious place in your body on your body, period. And that is your what? Your mind. That is why they tell people that get motorcycles to put a what on? Helmet. Because if you mess up your brain or your mind, what happens? You can't function. So the enemy knows that if he can get up in here and mess with you up in here, you can't function. And that's why so many of us can't function right, because we've allowed the enemy to plant a seed, to plant a thought. We've allowed the enemy that causes those to stumble to become a friend of us. You can't be friends with the world and those that teach erroneous teachings and then walk in truth, because it's going to be a conflict of interest. It's going to be conflict. And that is where the enemy gets us, when we get in that conflict, because now I got to make a decision. When you stay in truth, the only decision you have to make, a choice you have to make, is to continue to follow in the path that he's given you. To many people, that is one of those places where, if I'm being led to truth, he's not going to lead you outside of what he's already given you. If you look in the writings, and we follow in the Exodus, and you look in the latter part of the writings of Exodus, with the children of Yasharal, when they were led out of Mitzrayim, there were those that fell behind. And when they fell behind, many of them got caught and got taken and got dealt with because of their lack of enthusiasm, I'm going to say, and their lack of obedience. And they ended up getting dealt with. Now, you must understand something. The Abba has placed us on a course that we won't fail and we won't miss it. But if you continue to walk erroneous and walk in error, and by the enemy, we have a place of safety and security. All we have to do is maintain that. When you step out of that, now you become prey to the enemy. Does that mean just because we're walking into that temptation, once again, won't come? It's going to come. But where are you going to be when it comes? If you're on the path and in the path of uprightness and stand on that path, when it comes, you pass it like a breeze, because you know this is just a distraction. It's not a stop for you to make and buy something to eat and talk and basically exchange information. That's not that place. That's for you to keep on moving. So that's important for us to understand. All right, let us look at Daniel 1:8. Prior resolution of reasoning, the place that you get all your. We haven't said this song. Mm-hmm. All right.
Daniel chapter 1, verse 8. And it reads, Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the king's food, or the wine he drank. So he sought permission of the chief officer not to defile himself.
And it is so. All right. All right, just looking at something. All right. Let's look at this once again. But Daniel, purpose in his heart. Somebody say purpose it in your heart.
Purpose it in your heart.
Also purpose it in your what? In your mind, in your heart and mind, that he would not defile himself. I will not defile myself with the portion of the king's food. Now let's look at this also in this manner. Just walk with me. Food is not just the physical that you put in your mouth, but also spiritual food.
That's right.
I will not defile myself with stuff that is not going to bring me edification or bring me the strength that I need. Does that mean that you can't read literature and read other stuff? Absolutely not. But I am saying with regards to keeping ourselves undefiled, then you got to maintain a level of discretion in what you read, what you hear, all those things. Because if not, it will cause ruin to your ruach.
That's right.
He would not defile himself with the portion of the king's food, nor with the wine which he drank. Because he knew. Now you have to understand the reason he didn't, because in that time, the king would mix blood in the wine and in the meat. So he wouldn't cook it all the way, because that was their way. They practiced divination. And so they felt that by taking the blood of whatever it was, it would increase their abilities to do. And Daniel knew this. And so Daniel said, no, I will not partake of that, because that's not my way of life. Now, mind you, Daniel has been removed from his place of origin, and he's in a foreign place, but he yet holds up his standard and his way of life and says, if I'm going to be here, then this is how we're going to do this. If you want me to really do, then I've got to maintain my position and my walk with the Abba. I can't deviate from that, because if I deviate from that, what you want from me, I can't give to you, which I know you want me to give it from what you giving them, but I can't do that, because that's not my way of life. Are you following me?
Yes.
I'm not going to come down or trade down because I'm in this place. Same thing here. We're here. Doesn't mean that we have to take on the mentality or take on the way that has been presented to us. When I tell you there's some underlining stuff here in this place, that it's not funny. It's not funny. But as time goes on and as the Abba presents or permits it, the same things and information he's given to me, as he would give it to me, that he would allow me to give it to you. Now, with that being said, there is so much that's going on in this place that we as a people can't afford to get in the rat race. If you get in the rat race, you're going to die. You're going to die. If you play, many know the game of life and the game of Monopoly. Really, even when they say you win, you don't win. You may come out with all the money, but look at the course you have to take. In Monopoly, it is who can basically monopolize the board, buy everything else, make everybody else go bankrupt. I said, make everybody else go bankrupt. And you are the sole person on the board with all the houses, all the money, and everybody else has to submit themselves to you. The game of life, you spin the dial and it lands, and you choose a career, you choose a family. You either go get a career or you go to school. You go to school, it takes you longer. But if you take the path where you get a job and you get a family and you get this, you get that, they show you everything about this life. It's a game, but it is a reality. And it's funny that they will use fake money too. Fiat money. But you can buy and you can do. But you're only going to get so far in this game. It doesn't matter if you're medical, if you are a doctor, a profession. It doesn't matter what you are, what's going on. Everybody still has a playing field or a level that they're going to stay in.
That's right.
It doesn't matter. And while the rich think they're getting rich and the poor are getting poor, guess what, y'all? We still all right here. We're still all right here. They're rich. No, they're not. Oh, they're poor. No, they're not. We all still right here. We're right here. Are you following me?
Yeah.
So it's important that we maintain our walk in truth and don't deviate from that path. Daniel said, though I might be here, I will not become of you and not practice your practices. You don't have to practice the practices that have been established in this place for generations after generations after generations after generations. You don't have to. But know the practices that he's given unto us and outlined for us in the writings. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
He said, I'm not going to defile myself. And even with this, many people believe that Daniel became a vegan. He did not. He ate and he drank wine, but it was when he got to a point that he could get his own. He could buy his own food. He could maintain his own weight. Because he knew, I'm not going to be a partaker of that. But Daniel understood, I'm not going to defile myself. We have to be that same way. We have to be adamant about, I won't defile myself in this place, whether it's physical food or whether it's spiritual food. I will not defile myself. I will keep myself set apart. All right, let's look at Luke 4, chapter 4, verses 1 through 13. Using scripture to confront the enemy, the devil. Using the scriptures to confront him and not let him get the best of us. Chapter 4, verses 1 through 13. When you have it, send it is so.
And listen.
And it is so.
All right. Let's read. Give everybody a chance to at least read 2. Yeah, you give everybody a chance to read 2. You have it. Yeah, 14:7. Read verse 1 and 2.
And Yahush, being full of Ruach HaKodesh, returned from Yadan and was led by the Ruach into the wilderness, being 40 days tempted of the devil. And in those days he ate nothing, and when they were ended, he was hungry. And it was so.
All right. All right. And Yahush, being full of the Ruach HaKodesh, set apart spirit, returned from Yehudim and was led by the Ruach into the wilderness. Now you have to understand, verse 1 sets a platform for certain things. He was first full of the Ruach HaKodesh. He returned from Yarden and was led by the Ruach into the wilderness. Don't go into the wilderness unless the Ruach leads you there. Being 40 days tempted of the devil. And in those yamim, he ate nothing. And when they were ended, he was hungry. He didn't eat anything. He fasted. He didn't eat anything. That's the platform for setting up something. We get ready to see some things that are going to take place. All right, 3 and 4.
And the devil said to him, If you are the Son of Power, command this stone to become bread. But Yahush answered him, saying, It has been written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of power.
And it is so. If you be the Son of Power, command these stones that they be made lakim. Now you have to understand there are many other manuscripts and other writings per se that people say that as Yahush was a younger lad, that he commanded stones to become bread. That he took from the sea, from the shore, and these are the writings in the Quran, I believe it was in the Quran, and it said that when he was on the sea, he found he made clay birds and he made them fly. Now, believe it, many people believe that. Many people believe that he did these miracles while he was a child. I don't believe that. Once again, just because it's in a book or just because it's validated doesn't make it right. The validation has to be by credible witnesses that are walking in truth, and it can be founded upon principles of truth. If it's not founded upon principles of truth and credible, then we don't follow it. But they believe this. So here it is now. You see that he's being tempted, not because he didn't have the ability, but because he had the ability to do these things. He's not going to tempt you with something that's far beyond your reach. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
He's going to tempt you with something that's right there. Now, and he said, command these stones that it be made lakim, because he knew he was what? Hungry. When you're hungry for physical, natural, whatever it is you're hungry for, the enemy's going to always be there to lure you to do something out of character. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
When you are lonely, when you are frustrated, when you are angry, when you are hurt, he's always right there. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
He's right there always, waiting for the opportunity to present to you something that he believes that you might be interested in. And Yahushua answered him, saying, it is written that man shall not live by lakim alone. Now, once again, he hit him with what? It is written, because you're going to only be able to defeat him with the writings. You ain't gonna be able to fight him anywhere else. All right, let's look at that. The manuscript has the shorter version or the shorter reading, while in Matthew 4:4 you have the longer reading. Let's look at the Debitum 8:3, and we're gonna start with verse 1. We haven't said it so. Debitum chapter 8, verses 1 through 3. And so, all right, read that one. You got it? You got it? You got it, Ellen? Okay, come on.
Devarim, chapter 8, verse 1 through 3, and it reads, guard to do every command which I command you today, that you might live and shall increase, and go in and shall possess the land of which Yahuwah swore to your avot. And you shall remember that Yahuwah your power led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble you, prove you, to know what is in your heart, whether you guard his commands or not. And he humbled you and let you suffer hunger, and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, to make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of Yahuwah. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, very important. Say, well, why is that important? It is important because do you not know that hunger will make you do some really crazy things? When you are hungry and you have no discipline, hunger will make people kill people. Hunger will make people steal from people.
That's right.
Hunger will make you do some crazy, irrational things. This is why it is important that you understand and never let your hunger, whether it's natural or the hunger for the ruach and those things, take you into a place to where now you're going to find yourself eating, but you're going to get it in the wrong way. And then you get it in the wrong way, you're going to be eating the wrong stuff.
That's right.
Once again, very important that this is where this was quoted from. So Yahushua is giving the enemy the word. He didn't sit up there, try to fight him. He didn't sit up there and try to go rounds and rounds with him. He just told him. He said, it is written that man shall not live by lakim alone. So he brought it back to him, and it comes from Debitum 8:3. Man shall not live. We're going to look at verse 3. And he humbled you and let you suffer hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know. Now you got to understand, he let them suffer. Why? Because of their disobedience. Right. Suffering doesn't come unless disobedience takes place. You know, you got people get this twisted idea. Once again, well, that's wrong and people shouldn't suffer. Really? Who told you that? You know, I was talking to a person last month. We were on, I have a PlayStation 4, and we were playing, And yes, I was playing Grand Theft Auto, and I was playing with my son, playing, and we were on there with this guy, and I was ministering to him. He's a younger man, young guy rather, young man, and I was ministering to him about truth, talking to him about truth, and and telling him, we are the people, and he just kept taking everything as a joke, and he was saying, I'm a good person. I said, define good for me. What makes you a good person? What makes you good and makes you feel like you shouldn't go anything? Well, I take care of my children. That's your reasonable service. You brought them here. They're your responsibility. So you're not doing anything unusual. That's your responsibility. Right. He said, well, I'm a good person. I said, you're not good. I said, that's not good. You're just doing what is your reasonable service. So what makes you feel you should get exempt from everybody else? That's the mindset of many of people. Why should I suffer? I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. No, you're not. You don't even know who you are. You don't know what your path is. You don't know who or what you're supposed to be following or believing in. So no, you're not. And then many people say, well, I'm a Christian, so I'm good. You're absolutely not right. I'm not biased, but don't tell me you are a Christian and you are refuting and fighting, walking in truth, and you believe you're good because you've done what? Well, I've been this and I've done that. Roman Catholicism bought all that in world peace and world unity and, save the hungry children. The children are hungry because of their disobedient parents. Now, I know many people may say, well, that's a harsh thing to say, More. It's the truth. Who do you think just the parents suffered when they walked 40 years in the desert? No. Everybody that was part of Yasharal suffered, even the children. So if you are a wayward parent, your children are going to suffer because of your disobedience. You can't expect them to be exempt because they carry the same blood and DNA as you. So he said, I shouldn't know you. Yes, you should, until you do what you're supposed to do. Now, if you ain't walking in truth and you are not a part of the 12 tribes, then whatever you do, that's on you. I've told many people, if you're not part of the 12 tribes, then I don't have any words for you. Are you following me? Mm-hmm. I will talk with people and I will share with people and I will walk them into this truth. But you got to understand, my mission and my goal is to the lost sheep of Yasharal. I will talk and I will give information out and I will share with you and I will walk you through this thing. But you got to be the one on the quest to know who you are. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
I present the information, you take it and you run with it and see, am I this person? Then when you find out, then you come back. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So it's important for us to understand. But he tells us it will not come. I don't care who tells you what, it will not come. I was thinking about a situation earlier with Christianity. One of the things they pushed over and over again, tithes. And I still believe that people should pay tithes. Now, many people say, well, the only thing they took up was greens and cabbage and this and that and the other. That is true. But they also had a temple tax, which was 10%. They didn't pay with that. They paid gold with that. So if you go into a place or you have an edifice or you have a bayith or wherever you're going and you're worshiping there and there are needs at that place, then you are supposed to pay 10%. In a Yasharal, no, we're not. But you are in a place where you are receiving your edification and where you are receiving instructions for your lives. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important. Now you got to understand also. Here it is. They say, well, it's supposed to be, vegetation. I still have said, if that is the case, then how come you have not got your food boxes to get sent, your cabbage, those things? If you say that's what it is, how come you've not sent it? See, people talk a good talk, but then who have you sent it to in truth that has rejected it? Right. You didn't send it my way, because I sure would have rejected it. Are you following me? Yes. So once again, it's important that we be careful in what we say. Many times people use these platforms just as a means to try to get out of doing what is their reasonable service. This is a reasonable service. Right. And this is what we are called to do. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand this is what we're called to do. Now, once again, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of Abba Yahuwah. This is what we live by. This is what we govern our lives by, his instructions. And that's what we have. So it's important that we understand. Somebody comes and say, but, that was written by man. So what it is, but it is our instructions. And I believe that if there is any error and there is erroneous teaching there, he is going to reveal it to us by who? By the Ruach.
Right.
by the Ruach HaKodesh. She's not going to lead us astray because she was sent here to do what? Teach us. So you got to let her be your teacher. But if you're always fighting and rebuking and refuting things, you're in trouble.
Right.
You're in trouble. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Let's finish reading. 5 and 6.
And the devil, taking him up on a high mountain, showed him all the reigns of the world in a moment of time. And the devil said to him, all this authority I shall give you, and their esteem, for it has been delivered to me, and I give it to whomever I wish.
All right, 5 and 6.
Yeah.
All right. And the devil, taking him up into a high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. In a moment of time. Amazing. And the devil said to him, all this power will I give you, and the power of them, for that is relinquished to me, and to whomsoever I will give it. Now, mind you, Yahushua already knows why he's there. So the enemy can't give him something that he's there to take from him. Are you following me?
Yes.
So it's important that we understand. Yahushua understood why he was there, and he understand that it was relinquished to him, but you can't give away. You can't give it away. The devil was lying and assuming Yahuwah has given him the entire world. But the world is Yahuwah's, to heal him 24/1. And the devil has no right over any part of Yahuwah's world, but only has the freedom to roam around the air for the time being. Shaitan actively deceives people as he was trying here, but Yahushua caught him in the act and rebuked him using Torah. We should do likewise. Because we always know, and we even when Christianity understood that he's the prince of what? The air. He's the prince of the air. So once again, was Yahushua there to take that away? He was there to, watch this, strip him of him believing that he owned it, that it was his. Now you got to understand, if people continue to make people believe it's theirs, then they can get it. Just like when the people came and told those that were already here, we're going to put you in reservations. And we're going to take this land, and we're going to section it up, and we're going to have this and have that, and we're going to basically build. And this is ours. Even though you were here before us, it's going to be ours. Or we're going to trick you into selling something to us because we want it. But in actuality, you're not selling it to us. We just want you to believe you're selling it to us. We're going to take it. So it's a whole lot of stuff up here. You see the devil in action and see his foolishness throughout. All right. And he says to me and to whomsoever I will give it. Look at verse 7. Let's read 7 and 8.
Verse 7. Yahushua answered him, it is also written, do not put your...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yahushua answered him, it is also written, do not put Yahuwah your power to the test. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And it is so.
7 and 8? Okay. All right. Here in the worship me, answered and said to him, for it is written, you shall worship Yahuwah your power, and him only shall you serve. And him only shall you serve. You don't serve yourself. You only serve Abba Yahuwah. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Now, this is also Yahushua showing the world that he was not here for people to serve him. He was here to point the way for us to know how to serve the Abba. And this is where Christianity has really erroneously put into the teachings and made people believe that they're supposed to serve Jesus Christ and worship him.
Right.
Yahushua comes right here and refutes that and shows us that that was not his purpose, and that, once again, that is something that they created and brought forth, not the Abba through Yahushua. Are you hearing me? Because he relinquished, they know we are supposed to worship the Abba. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Verse 9. Let's read 9 and 10. Come on, Jacob. 9 and 10.
And he brought him to Yahushua, and he brought him to Jerusalem, and set him on a pinnacle of the temple, and said unto him, If thou be the son of Yahuwah, cast thyself down from hence.
Verse 10.
For it is written, he shall give his M.Y.K charge over thee, to keep thee.
Mm-hmm. End of this song. And he brought him to Jerusalem and set him on a pinnacle of the bed, Hamikadesh, and said to him, If you be the son of power, cast yourself down from here. Basically trying to get him to commit suicide. For it is written, he shall give his messengers charge over you to keep you. Yes, to keep you, but not to for you to get involved in committing suicide. Are you hearing me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's look at the footnote from that Yahoo 4 and 6. And it reads,
Yahoo 4 and 6.
mm-hmm.
So, just 6, just verse 6.
Mm-hmm. Let me go down and get the footnote. Mm-hmm. Read it. Read the same thing, but go ahead and read it.
But Yahoo 4 and 6. And said to him, If you are the son of power, throw yourself down. For it has been written, He shall command his messengers concerning you, and in their hands they shall bear you up, so that you do not dash your foot against a stone. And so,
End of itself. All right. I'm going to look at the footnote here. All right, bear with me just a minute, please. All right. Chapter 5. I told you read chapter 5, verse 13. What did I tell you? Sean, I told you read chapter 5.
5 or 6.
Chapter 5 and 6.
Yes.
All right. 13. All right, thank you.
No, 4, verse 4, verse 6.
5 and 4.
4 and 6.
4 and 6. All right, thank you. Okay. All right. Once again, excuse me. Yahush is quoted from the Torah, Devarim 8 and 3. The word was not Yahuwah, was not God or Elohim, but in Hebrew the term Yahuwah was used. Listen at this again. Yahush quoted from the Torah, Devarim 8 and 3. The word was not God or Elohim, but in Ibram the term Yahuwah was used. In other words, his name was used. There was no generic title or name. his for him. He used his name, Yahuwah. Okay, so that shows us the importance and the significance of using the writings and using the name Yahuwah and not a generic name. Huh?
What verse was that from?
This is from Matthew 4 and 5. That was my footnote. Okay, now we're going to go back to Luca, because that's where we're reading from, chapter 4, verses 1 through 13. And we're at verse 11 now, 11 and 12. And 13 will be out.
Read all three.
Yeah, 11, 11, 12, and 13. Go ahead.
And in their hands they shall bear you up, lest at any time you dash your foot against a stone. And Yahushua answered him and said, You shall not test Yahuwah your power. And when the devil had ended all the temptation, he departed from him for a season. And it is so.
And it is so for a season. All right, now let's look at this. And in their hands they shall bear you up, lest at any time you dash your foot against the stone. What is written, he shall give his messengers charge over you to keep you. Now, once again, he is trying to get him to commit suicide. He wouldn't have been able to commit suicide, but it's the act of tempting the Abba with evil. You know, it's just like us saying, well, I'm going to run in front of this bus because I know the Abba is going to swift me away and he's going to keep me. Okay, run in front of that bus if you want to, and let's see who be on top and who be on the bottom. Because now you're tempting him with evil, and you're not supposed to tempt the Abba with evil. And so this is what he was trying to do, was get him in a place to where he would forfeit, watch this, his insurance of being kept, because now he does something out of character. And that is not acceptable. This is why we can expect the Abba to come in and help us when we get out of not just character, when we get out of the way and we get out of the path that he has secured for us. You can't expect him to come in and secure you and help you or save you when you get off the path that he's already constructed for us to walk in. And in their hands they shall bear you up, lest at any time you shall dash your foot against a stone. That is valid. They will. But you have to understand, my going and kicking a stone, they're not going to jump up in there and grab my foot and keep me from doing it. Because I'm deliberately doing this. I'm deliberately bringing about this action. Now, if I'm walking in the process of me doing something and I kick my foot because I'm so heavily engulfed in what I'm doing, then they'll be there to keep that from happening. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
But if we just sitting there and I'm going to kick this stone because I'm at, no. And that's just me using an analogy. Are you following me?
Yes.
But his whole thing was, if you do this, they'll catch you. He trying to get him to do was to forfeit his walk. And he was trying to introduce to him, listen to this, a foreign doctrine. Foreign. Somebody said, why is it foreign? Because he understood everything that he was trying to offer him was contrary to the plan of the Abba. You have to recognize when it is foreign and when it is original. People cannot do that. And that's how we end up getting caught up in all this, enticed in all this stuff. He recognized this is foreign. You're trying to offer me something that goes completely against what the Abba has given me to do. So I'm not going to accept that, and I'm not going to take that. And this is how we get many of our people through arrogance. I can handle that. You know, if he dish it, I can take it. No, you can't, because he dished it out to many and they couldn't take it. Right. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And so you have to really be careful in this. Now, listen what he says. And Yahushua answering said to him, it is said, you shall not test Yahuwah your power. Do you not know when you stray from the path of uprightness, you test him? When he's already given us the method and already given us the means to maintain our walk and to maintain a healthy relationship and a healthy way of life. And then you test him by saying, hey, I'm going to try this out and I'm going to see if this is valid. We don't need other religions and we don't need other ways of life to secure our way of life. Our life is concrete by itself.
That's right.
That's just like adding more. You're baking a homemade pie or homemade cake, and they give you the ingredients, and then you go and say, I'm gonna add some cornmeal to it. Maybe that'll help with, help it stay and, hold better. The ingredients and the recipe is complete. Only thing you need to do is add what needs to be added and fix it. Does that mean you can't add pecans or whatever? If you want to add pecans or whatever, but there are some recipes that are to be followed exactly the way they've been prescribed. Don't add, don't take away. Why? Because you have to understand displacement. If the ingredients call for a certain amount of stuff and then you go put nuts and other stuff in, that means now you may have to add more liquid, which is going to cause now the recipe to be off and you will make a mess. Right. So you have to be careful with that. Pound cakes from scratch don't need nothing but the ingredients. That butter, that lemon, that brown sugar, no white sugar, or honey, or whatever you're going to put in there, and definitely no white flour. But when you make that pound cake, if you put anything other than that, it's no longer a pound cake. It's now a cake with nuts and pie and whatever in it, and fruits. Are you following me? Yes. So you have to understand, if you change the recipe, if you change the ingredients, you change the recipe up. This is what the enemy has tried to do, and he has succeeded with many of our people. By changing up the ingredients, you change up the recipe. You change up the recipe, you change up the results of what it is you're trying to get. Are y'all following me? Yes. Very important. Now listen what he says in verse 13. And when the devil had ended all the temptation, he departed from him for a season. You have to understand, the enemy will go to people that he believes are not seasoned. He's going to go to people. Now listen to what I'm about to say. His whole thing is to see if you really are who you say you are. He's a mastermind at creating situations and causing you or me to get in a situation to really see if we are who we say we are, or we're going to be diligent in what we have put our hands to that the Abba has given us. Right. It is important that we understand you must deny him access. Let's look at Ephesians 4:20 with this one. Don't give him access. The moment you give him access, he's going to take it and he's going to get all the files. He ain't going to leave not one file. And then when he puts those files back, each one of them going to be corrupted. He ain't going to put nothing, but everything is going to be corrupted. So now you're going to be basing your walk and your lifestyle off of corrupted files. Anytime a computer gets corrupted, it will not function at its capability. Because it's what? It has corrupted files. Corrupted files will mess up everything. Are you following? Yes. You can't do nothing with no corrupted files. Because after the files are corrupted too long, what happens? Then your stuff is so messed up, you can't do nothing. You can't access nothing. And I don't know about you, but I need all my files on my computer. Because that gives me access to my what? Information. If your files are corrupted, then you lose the ability to access your information. Mm-hmm. Same thing, if he corrupts your mind, your place of reasoning and understanding through erroneous teachings, then guess what? Everything you get that's going to be right is going to come off as being corrupted. And watch this, and anything you put in there is going to get corrupted by the files that are already corrupted. I've learned this. If people don't believe in certain things in certain areas, and I'm going to put this out there, if people don't believe in the Sabbath, they don't believe in the feast, they don't believe in any of those things, guess what? They're not going to believe in anything else that you tell them that has to go along with keeping in the truth of the Torah. And that's just the way it is. Why? Because if one file gets corrupted, that file, if it stays in there, is going to corrupt the rest of the files. Because you got to look at what is corrupting it. What's corrupting it? A virus. And if that virus is corrupting it, that virus is not there just to destroy one file. It is there to wipe your whole computer clean. Then once it does that, it wants to destroy the whole computer. We have found a computer was given to us. And it had everything on it that I needed and I wanted. And this is when we were in Christianity. Everything I needed and wanted. And I mean, it had everything. It had it had the driving, where you go and take the driving test. It had the driving test on it where you could sit and like you were driving a car. It had the questions. It had the updated at that time print shop on it where I could do all kind of print stuff. It was the ideal computer. And it was given to me by one of the sisters at that time that was a part of our church. And so I had told someone, this individual, not to put it online and not to try to update it. I said, if you do that, it's going to get a virus and it's going to wipe the whole computer clean. Because anytime you get stuff like that and you go on certain sites, it's bad, but those sites are contaminated. People are so malicious, they don't care. All they want to do is tear people stuff. You go on there, and if you don't have the right antiviruses and you don't have the right stuff on there, the moment your computer gets on there, it's already contaminated. And the moment you shut it off, do whatever, your stuff is lost. So did it anyway after I asked them not to. So the next day I go to turn the computer on, and the computer is blinking. All the files have been wiped. The computer was no good for anything but the trash, because whatever virus had gotten on there, it did just what I said. I believe it was a worm that got on there. It destroyed that computer. So I am telling you, whenever you allow certain things to be downloaded into your files, into your mind, the place that is to be guarded, if these things are virus infected or they have all kind of stuff on it, when that stuff gets in your mind, it's going to contaminate your way of thinking. It's going to contaminate you.
Right.
And no matter what anybody tries to tell you, unless you get those files wiped, everything that's presented according to truth, you're going to refute it. Because you're going to base it on what you already have in your brain and what you already have. And so you're going to base it upon that. And that's what causes problems. Right. Instead of people going back to the beginning and saying, hey, wait a minute, I really didn't think like that at one time. So what caused you? Oh, now this is truth. That's not truth. That's the enemy. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. And so here we have to understand the best way to keep the enemy from you is deny him access. If he tempts you, that's his job. But don't fall for it. Don't talk with him. Don't chat with him. Use the writings and keep it moving. Ephesians 4:27. And it reads. Everybody there?
Yes. 4:27.
4:27. Food for thought.
Ephesians 4:27 reads, neither give place to the devil.
Read it again.
Neither give place to the devil.
Plain and simple. One line sentence. Neither give place to the devil. Don't give him place, because if you give him place, he's going to want to take over the whole space.
Right.
Don't give him place. Don't give place, or neither give place to the devil. Mishley 4:23 also tells us to do what? Guard your mind. Where is the place that he tries to get? Your mind. Mm-hmm. Deny him access. Access denied. You know how if you have a phone and when your minutes run out and everything gone and you're trying to call, this call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check your number and try again later. That's because access has been denied. You want to deny him access. And if you keep denying him, guess what? He will get tired at some point and leave you alone, which will give you the opportunity afterwards to build yourself up and really look at how you're standing. Once again, it doesn't matter whether you're weak or strong, whether you're in between. If you are a part of the chosen and you are a part of Yahshua, be expect to be tempted. But at the same time, expect to come out on top by where you're standing and how you enter, because how you enter is definitely going to be the way how you exit. You enter in with victory, you're going to exit it with victory. If you enter in it the wrong way, you're going to exit it the wrong way. You're going to exit it with more situations and problems than you entered with it. Once again, temptation, and looking at it from just a basic format to show us that we can live through temptation and we can make it through the tempting, testing, and trying, and even the baiting. Because the enemy will try to bait you out. He will use decoys. He'll try to lure you out. But you have to be wiser than that, and you have to recognize, as Rabbi Shaul said, the devices of Shaitan. Don't be ignorant concerning his devices. He knows when to come at you when you're most vulnerable. This is why if a situation arises and you get hurt in a situation, humble yourself. Humble yourself and don't try to engage. Humble yourself, back up from that situation and pray and seek help. Don't let him speak to your heart and make you feel like, no, I got to do everything on my own, because that's what the enemy is waiting for you to do, so he can be right there to pounce on.
That's right.
Once again, I pray that there was something said that would encourage you to keep you on that straight and narrow path of uprightness and keep you Torah strong all day long, so that you can continue to defeat the enemy when he comes to you in ways of trying to tempt you to leave from the path and the course that the Yahweh has set for us, his people. I am Aliyah Yasharal, and I am the leader. I am the Mora of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom Hebraic Belief Congregation located in South Carolina. Once again, I am Aliyah Yasharal, and I am Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom Hebraic Belief Congregation. I want you to remember, keep your head up, keep your shoulders squared, and keep your heart and your feet in and upon the Torah, because you can't go wrong. And it is so. And it is so. I also want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champion resides. And it is so. And it is so.